Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts and ideas to help grow healthy, happy, successful families that are both inside
and outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like review on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Jena Jauchius. Jenna is an internationally recognized landscape architect, nature play expert, and the founder of N is for Nature Play. Jenna has spent her 24-plus year career designing sensory-rich, nature-filled play, learning, and therapeutic environments for kids of all ages and abilities. She specializes in designing supportive environments for all kids, including those with autism and other neurodiversity. In addition to design, Jenna loves teaching parents, early childhood professionals, and educators how to reconnect with their own senses and create tailored, multisensory, natural play and learning spaces to grow their children's unique bodies, minds, and spirits. Jenna, welcome. This is a really interesting topic. I think it's going to be a lovely discussion. Welcome to our show today.
Well, thanks, Christina and Herb. I'm so happy to be here.
We are so glad you are here as well, because, as we were talking a little bit before we turned on the camera, it's like, this is one of the things where we can really help parents really think about what are the sensory needs of their kids and sensory needs of themselves, and then hopefully bring some more of that calm and that peace into the learning environment or the home environment so our families can really thrive. So we are super excited.
Yeah, thank you. The senses are so important, and it's one of those things in whether you're supporting your kids or supporting yourself, we forget, like, it's just so under the radar. We often forget about our sensory needs, and it is at the core of whether, our life experience, whether we're in survival mode or whether we're in expansive, thriving mode. It all has to do with how our senses are supported.
Absolutely. And go a little bit more into your passion, your why. How did you get started on all of this? I know, we talked a little bit about it in your bio, but tell us a little bit more about why this is so important to you.
Yeah, well, for most of my career, it has been a calling. Mm-hmm. And so, honestly, I followed my curiosity in it. When I got into landscape architecture, I did a project in a playground. And I loved that work, and I understood it really well, like really to the core of who I am. I understood the importance of play and the importance of creating supportive places for all children. And so that carried me into children are really diverse, even more so today than they were 20 some years ago when I started this work. And so how can we create supportive environments for children that have incredible diversity in how they experience their lives, how they learn, how they play, everything. And then fast forward to me becoming a mom. All of my experience and all of my knowledge and the theory behind it really became grounded in my own life, and I saw firsthand. I have twins. They're 9 years old now. But I saw firsthand, like, these two amazing human beings that are so very different, each approaching everything that they do very differently and having very different experiences. And so how to be a mom in that situation and how to support them best, really, it didn't change how I did things, but it really deepened the meaning behind it all. And it grounded it so much in my life. I actually built a sensory garden in our own backyard where started at 7 years ago. So when the kids were 2. For 7 years now, the kids and I go out there almost every day, no matter what the season is, and just do fun things and play and learn and explore. And, I do a lot of weeding, but it's so much fun. That's what I love to do too. So.
You are so right. We have 2 boys of our own, and they're 18 months apart. So they aren't twins, but they're really close, right, in age. And same thing. They're 2 very different kiddos. And so as you were growing with them and helping them learn, same thing. You have to really figure out what one needs, what the other one needs, and how we can kind of combine it together as a family. And as we're working with our homeschool families, same thing with multiple kids. Those parents have to figure out how to weave this into being able to meet the needs of all of those kiddos as they're working with them. So this is going to be amazing. Yeah.
So besides stinging nettles and blackberry bushes, what kind of plants make up a sensory garden? What is a sensory garden? Because What, I mean, because I have never heard of this term before, that plants you
Sure.
can play with.
Well, yeah. So a sensory garden for kids is going to look different than, say, for adults. And so so a sensory garden is a garden space, so like a nature-filled space that intentionally engages children in a multisensory way. And we don't have just five senses. I talk about eight. And so there's the five classic: sight, touch, taste, smell, and sound. There's two movement-based systems: the vestibular system, which is about movement and body orientation, am I upside down, am I right side up? Then there's proprioception, which is body awareness, where am I at in space or with all the things around me? And there's more to that one. But the eighth one is interoception, which is all about the internal sensations of our body, and it answers, how do I feel right now? And so all of those can be stimulated in a garden space or an outdoor learning space or just a very simple play space. It just really depends on what kind of features you include. So you asked about what kind of features in planting. So a sensory garden might include something like a mud kitchen, where kids can play with dirt and water and sand and plant parts and create potions and mud pies and all sorts of things, like really hands-on. Um, it might include a little cozy space like a garden teepee, where they can go in like a little enclosed space and play and feel protected and be able to self-regulate. If they're feeling overwhelmed by something, they can go into this little cozy space and they have their me time and they self-regulate and get out of survival mode. Plantings really depend on where you're at in the world, but one plant that I love to use is called lamb's ears, and it's a perennial. You guys get it where you live. I have it where I live. It's a really diverse a plant that really covers a lot of the United States. But it's a perennial, low to the ground, but it's fuzzy, hence the name lamb's ears. So when a child touches it, it feels like the most soft fleece coat that you could put on. And so if you have a kid who maybe is sensitive to touch, you plant a lamb's ears and it invites them to explore their tactile system in a very safe way. You can have herbs and like vegetable gardens, fruit trees, all sorts of things you can include. If you live in a rental and you don't have the opportunity to plant a plant out in your landscape, you can have a pot of herbs or a pot of cherry tomatoes and a basil and a thyme plant and still have that the benefit of sensory plantings in a very like movable situation. So yeah.
I love how you were talking about that cozy little nook, because what popped into my head is that's one of those places, like you said, they can go to calm and recenter and ground, but it's also a place where they could go and they could write a creative story, about what's happening in that little place, or they could go read a book and just really feel cozy in there reading a book or something. So that's what popped into my head when you were describing that space. And that sounds really inviting to me right now.
It is. Well, in cozy space, it's funny, cozy space, we all need cozy spaces no matter what age we are. Like, if you have a 16-year-old, cozy space might be a hammock, and I love hammocks. And so like the whole age range can benefit by one feature. So like a hammock, everyone, you can swing and get that movement for kids who need more movement while they learn. It can be a quiet, just comforting space,
And I love how the hammock,
everybody.
the hammock kind of wraps around you too. So sometimes that sensory pressure kind of thing is there also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you were talking about herbs and things. So then immediately I thought of the smells, right? What kinds of smells they might like. So different flowers with different smells, different herbs with different smells, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The lavender that's supposed to be calming for everybody.
Yeah.
So I've talked about this on our show before, but I suffered a traumatic brain injury, actually quite a few of them. And for a large part of probably 15 years, I went into a very, very dark space. And plant medicines brought me out of that. So I did an exploration in a lot of different plant medicines. And one of the things, and so now I actually work with other people who have suffered trauma and are going into the plant medicine space. And one of the interesting things about that is because most of the people are older like me. But what I find is it is that sensory. It does bring them back into their body. They start noticing life that is always there, but they just don't see it anymore. So they'll see the life in plants. They'll start noticing bugs. They reconnect to that kind of sensory garden that you're creating. So where I went when you were talking about all of that is, if you're doing that with children and raising them up with that, then that also is a way for trauma release to happen as it starts, because what trauma really is time and space that gets stuck inside of your body because you don't know how to get that energy out. And so by being in these gardens, by having these sensory experiences, and as a child learning how to do that, when they do get stressed, they can go play in the mud getting their hands in the dirt. Gardening is something that we encourage patients to start taking up, because it gets their hands in the dirt. And we can talk about the Schumann resonance so I told you I'm out of the box.
Totally. Totally. I love talking about this.
Yeah, so I see what you're doing is actually a benefit for older people to start, as they're setting it up for their kids, or if they have traumas, as a way to also help, kind of ease into that as well. So while it is great for the kids, it's going to be amazing for the parents to reconnect to that aspect of life as well. What are your thoughts on what I just brought up?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I am so excited to be talking about this, because one of the things that I'm working into what I do now is helping the adults. It's not just about nature play. And as you mentioned, it's about the adults reconnecting to their senses, because our nervous system is the single most important thing in our lives. It is the single mechanism through which we experience our world, right? We experience our world through our senses. And that's our nervous system. And so a couple of really beautiful things happen when we connect to our senses, because, well, just to take a quick step back, most adults are not very connected to their senses. They're not consciously connected to their senses. We're walking through life with our senses on autopilot, which, as you just mentioned, that means we're just experiencing the very little, like the superficial aspects of our life. We're just hitting the surface, right? And so when we do that, we're not grounded in our body. We're not in tune to those stuck emotions. We're not in tune with those stuck traumas, and we have no idea what they are, why they're there, and how to get them out. But when we can connect to our senses, that is like the biggest, most foundational step that we can do for that release process, and to live a life that's really extraordinary in what we feel might be an ordinary life situation, right? And so when I talk to parents or teachers, there are three things. When you can reconnect consciously with your senses and use your senses throughout your day very consciously, three things happen. You get more grounded within yourself, and you regulate your nervous system much more easily, right? And then so when you come up with a kid who is dysregulated, you're not meeting them with a dysregulated system, which we often do. So when they're dysregulated, you're regulated, so they can come into co-regulation with you. You help them regulate themselves by being a regulated nervous system in proximity of their dysregulation. So that happens. You become more in tune with their sensory experiences, and more in tune and empathic to their experience of their world, which is fantastic for parents, but just good humaning right there. So you become more in tune with their needs and how they experience their world. And then three, when you become more in tune with them and more sensitive to them, you become more sensitive to your environment, and you know how to tailor that space. So when your child, you see them kind of get triggered, you can more quickly notice or observe or pinpoint what's triggering them and how to fix it. Not how to fix it, how to tailor it, or how to help them self-regulate in context of that. So
Help
you
them,
become a
how to
more
help them
sensitive
see
human
it.
being.
Yeah, how to help them see it and be
Yeah.
their own. Ask. Yeah. So you are so talking my language right now. This is, I mean, you just jumped into my world like both feet, and is like, wow. And you know, tool one, ground zero for all of this is breath for in my in where I work, because it's like most people don't know how to breathe. It's like everybody breathes, but nobody knows how. And so you connect them to their breath, and then once they get into their breath and then they can start feeling themselves, then that allows the opening to all these other worlds. So, you know, my first tool, and you talked about co-regulating as a coach in these situations, you know, to be calm and present no matter what the person is going through. They could be freaking out, and you allow that, but you sit there and you be calm, and you bring them back into themselves, into their body with the right kind of questions, not about stuff, but about what they're feeling. You bring them back into their body. And it's like, wow, that sounds really rough. Where are you feeling that kind of in your body? What's happening there? So yeah, right. You just like so jumped into my world. That was fabulous.
Yeah. And to add on to that, Herb, our bodies are extremely powerful places to occupy, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're the vehicles we've chosen to experience our lives, and they're in and of themselves, they're highly intelligent. And when we've only just nicked the surface of our sensory capabilities or awareness, um, there's so much more depth that we can go to and discover just how sensitive we are, and multisensory and extrasensory and all of these things once we get past that surface level.
I still have quite a bit of issues going into my body. There's still a lot of discomfort. I've got a lot of work to do. But as I do it, it makes it easier to help other people step into it as well. So I'm not great at this. I'm pretty good. I'm really good at helping other people, but I'm also still at a pretty basic level, and I'm still growing in what I'm doing as well. So it's important to know that it doesn't matter where you're at, that you can get benefit out of it. You just have to kind of start into it.
And one of the things I've heard you say in the middle of that I really want to point out to parents is that you said because they were grounded and aware of senses and stuff around them, they were then able to pick up on their child's triggers and then help them. So parents, you keep saying, or a lot of parents say, oh, I want to know how to help my child in different situations. Listen to what was just said. When you're grounded, when you know what triggers you or what you are noticing, and then you can pick up on those things that might be or are affecting your child, boom, you're right there. You're doing exactly what you were hoping to do. So there we go. Another reason to build these sensory spaces, and to experience these sensory spaces, and then make sure we take our children and experience lots of things so that they can either figure out how to do it, or know what not to be around, or whatever it is that helps your child and you move through life with grace.
And the other thing is you don't jump in and solve their problems. You don't jump in and take that away from them. You stay regulated, you stay grounded, you stay present with them, and they will feel that and move into that state because it's more comfortable. So you don't say, oh, you're feeling this, well, this is how you get out of that. It's like, no, I'm staying grounded. This is how I stay out of that. And I'm going to lead you there into this space, but you have to come to it. So and then back to the garden, it's like, how does the garden set that up? How does the sensory garden help bring that into place?
Oh, well, so and this ties into you know, when I talk to parents, they're like, well, how do I even start? Like what do I even do at home? So I can answer that question, but then bring my garden into as an example. And so I always say, if you're wanting to do something at home, ask yourself the question, what do my kids love to do? What are their interests? What's an activity or activities that they could spend that they do over and over again, or they spend a ton of time in, like in a flow state play? Because in those activities are the sensory experiences that they are getting that feed their bodies and that regulate their nervous system. That's why they're doing these things. And so how can you craft a space around those activities? It can be very simple. Like I said, a pot of herbs gives lots of different activities. A mud kitchen gives lots of different activities. The follow-up question to that is, do your kids have any sensory needs or sensitivities or differences? Because that question will help you answer, how can I tailor this setting, that the activities they love to do, how can I tailor it to best meet their nervous system needs? And so it will be a place that will help them thrive. And it will be a place that competes with that screen that they'll want to go out to and spend time in. So those are the two questions that I ask parents. And in my garden, my kids love to work with their hands. They love animals and interacting with, nature and that sort of thing. So it's really heavy on planting. It's really heavy on hands-on things like the mud kitchen, which one of my children's really hands-on. So when they were little, it was a mud kitchen, and now she's a little bit older. It's more of a maker space. But just this summer, she's like, I think I'm done with that. I want to create a habitat area. I'm like, okay. So it's a space that's been in evolution, which is totally okay. And it's been very inexpensive to do these things. So there's lots of ways to get around. You don't have to buy an expensive play structure. You can do so many different things for pennies, quite literally.
Now a few words about Vibrant Family Education.
How many entrepreneurs and business owners start out on this journey to make a better life for their family, only to find that it took so much more time and effort than they were expecting that they had even less time for their family? I know I did.
At Vibrant Family Education, we want to help you reach your family goals while you're still building towards your business goals. We do this by bringing you the third leg of the stool to keep your family upright, family education development.
By bringing your children's education home, you will be able to model your work ethic and family values as you overcome obstacles and challenges to build your business. Instead of learning facts to pass tests, your children can be watching and seeing the dedication it takes to build your business and the legacy you want to create for their future. They will be able to witness the struggles and joys, the wins and the losses, and learn from you how to persevere and grow in life.
Instead of waiting until you get successful to spend more time with your family, start with the end goal in mind and bring your family home. Instead of trying to repair your family after you reach success, let us help you start achieving your family goals from the outset. Learn to be successful with your family now, and no matter what happens in the future, they will be better prepared for life, especially after watching how you cared for and built not only a business, but a healthy, happy, and successful family.
We offer a wide range of educational services, including how to easily get started with homeschooling. Come visit us at vibrantfamilyeducation.com and let us show you how. And now, back to our guest.
So have you ever heard, Mom, that's my mud kitchen, I want to play?
Totally fine. Yeah. We do lots of parallel play in the garden, which means they're doing their thing and I'm doing my thing, but we're in the space together having we're enjoying it and we're enjoying each other enjoying it. So it's so much fun. We don't have to do the same things together.
I have to ask the question, oh, but they're so dirty and it's hard to keep them clean and da 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 da. How do you answer that question?
Yes.
Well, okay, so I answer it a couple ways. First, I would invite the parents to get comfortable with expanding their child's ability to get messy, because messiness is an essential aspect of play and learning, right? You have to make messes to understand things. You have to get dirty to understand things so often. Grass stained knees are beautiful for me. There's so much health, physical health, that comes from getting your hands in the dirt, right? There's beneficial bacteria and things, and it's okay if your kid eats a handful of dirt from time to time. It actually helps their immune system. So see how you can expand your comfort zone with the whole messy aspect. And I understand there's a lot of parents who really like a tidy yard, and the thought of having a mud kitchen in one corner is really like, it provokes a lot of anxiety because it's messy and, you know, they can't keep it manicured and that sort of thing. Again, think about your purpose of that space, and a child being able to learn and experiment and to do, you know, whatever activity they're doing is really valuable. And then if it's, say, I keep using the mud kitchen as example. If you had some shelving, maybe there's a way to tidy it up for a time while they're not using it. And then they also learn like picking up after themselves, all of that important like life skills. So
Thank you. I was hoping you would answer something like that, but you know, it's just one of those questions because as you were saying, parents have different comfort levels, kids have different comfort levels. And when I talk about learning styles and helping our children learn, I have to keep reminding parents, step out of your learning style, step out of your comfort zone for the benefit of your child, just like you were just saying. So it's not always easy, but
it's not. Well, and kids are at our mercy. Like we're the ones, the adults are the ones that decorate the house, right? Even the kids' bedrooms, we're decorating their rooms for them. You know, oh, Johnny would really like a Lego motif or whatever. Maybe Johnny doesn't like, maybe Johnny wants something different. Give them some of the reins and some of the control in creating their own spaces.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised there's some overlap in the sensibilities, but you know, it's really beneficial for kids to have some control in their physical environment. And so wherever you can give that to them to the degree that you're willing to, go for it and continue to expand that comfort zone.
Yeah, this also brings to mind another guest that we had on that talked about food and how to get children to eat. And she talked about letting your children play with their food. Sometimes cook food and let them play, like hot dogs. Let them play with the hot dogs for a while, and then eventually they'll start eating them, or let them play with carrots, the cooked carrots, and feel the mushiness and get it on their hands. And then eventually they'll start eating it after they become familiar with the other senses around the food. But just sitting down and forcing your kids to eat isn't always. So what you're talking about kind of brings that to mind, is the playing aspect of it brings a lot more life into the activity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the time, whether they're eating or playing, the time to really play to their fullest, like to get the fullest experience out of it. Of course, it has to do with the senses. Eating is the same way. There's a lot of us who just scarf our food and we don't savor it, right? We don't enjoy it. We like, what did I just eat? Like, what did I have for breakfast? I can't remember. But when we savor our experiences, whether we're eating or whatever we're doing, then we live a fuller life and we experience a fuller moment and we feed ourselves in so many different ways. And we're full human beings when we do that.
Absolutely.
And it has to start in childhood.
It does. Yeah, it does. Or you as an adult, take yourself back to childhood and experience those things so you start getting it as well.
I was going to say, it doesn't have to start in childhood. It's better. But if you didn't have that as a child and you have a child now, start it now. Go play with your kids, because the longer you wait, the longer it is you take to get benefit from it. So it doesn't have to start as a kid. Start now.
Yeah.
Because start now while you're as young as you are, because right now is as young as you're ever going to be. And so start now.
And everyone needs to play.
And everyone needs to play. And if you and hey, who knows, maybe when your kids grow up and get out of the house, you'll still have that mud kitchen.
There we go.
You might.
Now, I know it is in for nature play, but what if we have a family's like, I live in an apartment. I mean, I know I can have the little box on the patio or whatever, but what can I do maybe inside? Have you ever worked with a family or helped somebody kind of inside build kind of a sensory area as well?
Yeah. So a couple of options, a couple ideas. Have as many house plants as you can. Of course, you have to research, are they toxic for kids? That's an important piece of information.
And pets.
But there's the more nature you can bring into your house, the better, or your apartment. Let them build a pillow fort, right? Do you have a space that they can do things with, just like they would in an outdoor space. Let them play in the sink.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Of
let them
course,
play in the bathtub.
yeah, let them play in the
Make
bathtub.
your bathroom waterproof so that they can totally soak out the bathroom and play in the
Yeah,
bathtub.
yeah, yeah. The beautiful thing is that it doesn't just look like what nature play doesn't look like one thing. It looks like everything. And so it really you just uh, bring that attitude to wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And the ideas will just come up. And be playful. Get outside for walks as much as you can. Get outside in your park or just walking down the street. And because even if you're just walking from here to the grocery store, if you live in an urban setting, there's so much nature in that walk, the cracks in the sidewalk, the trees, the things that you notice, all of those, there's nature everywhere. It's not just outside in a park or a beautiful backyard. It's everywhere. And so can you on your walks, can you collect fun things like rocks and twigs and leaves and flowers and bring them home for some loose parts play? So, again, that's something that's free. So easy to do, and the kids love it.
I love that. And it actually brought back a memory. I was thinking, I'd be at my grandmother's house with my cousin, and we would have to do the dishes because grandma and grandpa didn't have a dishwasher. So we did the dishes in the sink. And ultimately, it seemed like always near the middle, our dishwashing would turn into a tea party because we'd have cups and we'd have a pot and this and that. And we would just sit there and grandma didn't care as long as dishes got done. If it took 45 minutes to wash the dishes, that was fine because we were playing and da 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 as we went. So I'm just encouraging parents to just think about that. Yeah, dishes might take a while, but if they're playing and experiencing as they're doing it, and you don't have to be somewhere, let it happen.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like at my house, we don't have a dishwasher
Okay.
right
Yep.
now. We don't have a dishwasher. And so, well, I'll be doing dishes and there'll be like a pile of bubbles in the sink. And my youngest twin has a radar for bubbles. And so she'll come out of nowhere with her hands like this. And so she'll want to play with the bubbles. And I'm like, okay, I got to step away for 15 minutes or something, let her do her thing. And I'll go
Uh-huh.
do something else, but then come back and she's just had so much fun and it's
Yep.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, so you talk about autism and neurodiversity. Do you work with autistic children so far? And how does this help with them? Is it different than with neurotypical kids? And man, I hate saying that, but
I know, I do too. So the senses are so important for any child, all children, any person. So whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, having an environment that is tailored to your sensory needs and sensitivities is one of the most important things because we're surrounded by an environment at all times. And when we have a space that feels safe to our nervous system, then we can kind of be ourselves. And that's what any person wants out of their life is to be themselves, right? To in their fullest.
Yeah.
And so there are some extra considerations for kids with autism. Especially if I were to design a play space for an early childhood setting or something. The fencing and the safety, and there's a set of extra considerations that I go
Right.
through. But one thing for parents might be if they struggle getting outside, if they don't want to go outside, make it part of their routine and make it part of your communication and spending a little bit of time outside each and every day because nature will help regulate their system. You will have to be very in tune with their physical cues. Say if they have an auditory sensitivity, and something's bugging them, they might look out of their peripheral vision. You can start to see the cues when they start to get dysregulated. And so that might be the cue to let's move back inside and start doing the thing that let's have an activity that you love to do to help regulate you. So there's lots of things that you can do to help make getting them outside easier. make it part of their routine, communicate it really well, make it really sensory appropriate for them. And you might even have sensory zones where they can focus on one sense at a time. So it's not so multisensory, because oftentimes that can really dysregulate the child. Just depends on their needs. So, of course,
and one thing that popped into my mind there is a lot of our kiddos who are like that, trying to get on the heavy winter coat and getting on the gloves and all that kind of stuff is just so dysregulating for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're only going to be outside for 5 or 10 minutes, do they really need to go through the whole heavy coat, mittens, et cetera, or can they be okay going out the way they are, experiencing what they're going to do for that 10 or 15 minutes? So you're starting out on a better, more smoother track, right? And so instead of going out being upset because he had to put on his coat, like, okay, 10 minutes won't kill him without his coat, won't kill him if he's getting a little bit wet, kind of thing. Let them go experience that way and then come back and then deal with warming up and drying off and things like that.
And as somebody who does cold plunges and knows the benefits of getting cold, letting your kid get cold and wet and dirty is actually very healthy for them.
In small bits, right?
Maybe not let them be out for hours, but I go run around out in shorts and a t-shirt in the snow and I'm still here. So your kids can handle it. Let them get cold, let them get wet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's part of life.
Exactly. Perfect. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you kind of wrote down some notes where you're like, oh, I really want to talk about this with the audience?
Oh my gosh. So just a couple of quick activities to get adults into their senses more is so I talk about a lot, but two to share really quickly is one, make it a habit in your day. So make as many times as you can through your day, do conscious sensory experiences, multisensory. So for example, and I always recommend to tack it onto a habit, like brushing your teeth or washing the dishes or folding laundry. How much can you sense in that one activity, like brushing your teeth? The feeling of it, the smells, the taste, the action, the moving, looking at yourself in the mirror, whatever. How sensory can you make that? How consciously sensory can you make that? Washing the dishes, same. So any activity that you do, and it's not like you have to set aside time to do it. You just do it in your natural routine, right? And so that teaches the body to go into that greater depth of sensory experience, and it teaches us to naturally do that. And so it's a natural way.
Is the shower, because most people, the shower is like, I get in, I get wet, I wash, I'm done. I mean, the water covering your body is so important.
The shampoo and
the shampooing, the touching yourself. What are you noticing? How does it feel when you touch your hair? How does it feel when you touch your legs? What does the soap feel like? There are so many different things. How does the water running across you feel like? When you put your face in the water, what do you notice? I used to have it run over my head and over my ears, and I would try and get it so both my ears were covered and have changes of sound. So well, I lost touch with my body. I mean, when I hurt my head, there's still parts of my body that I don't feel anymore. So, getting into the sensory aspect of it brought a lot of that back for me. So,
and the trick is really to get out of your brain, right? We spend most of our days thinking and analyzing and replaying a situation that we didn't enjoy or whatever, but we spend way too much time up here, and that takes us out of our body. The second activity, really quick, is what I call a slow-mo sensory walk, where you take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And you can do this with your kids or by yourself. Probably if you have your kids, you're going to look less ridiculous to your neighbors. But you go and maybe explore your backyard or go on a walk and go as slowly as humanly possible. Walk as slowly as possible. Notice everything around you that you can with all the different senses.
Sorry, I'm just I can't do that. I am like, go, 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 go. And that's probably the thing I need the most.
Pretend you're like the $6 million man running at super speed.
So this will be really important for you, Christina. And the trick is, well, for one, I just mentioned get out of your mind, but also don't speak. Can you do this without talking? Can you do this without saying, oh my gosh, look at that? If there's something really cool and you're with your kids, then absolutely take a moment and talk about it, but then continue on without speaking. So it really forces you to get into your body and your senses and to slow down and to notice the richness that's around us all the time that we're just skimming by.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm hoping that they're getting out of their head, and then what we like to say is down into their heart, to settle into that space where you really are connecting.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. Yes. And I'm going to have to go do that now in a few minutes and try to go do a slow-mo walk outside.
Well, we did just drive like mad to get to my mom's house, and we got here and set up and jumped into this. So our dogs need to go for a walk. So we'll probably be actually going outside. And my mom lives in a small town in Southern Oregon. So like we're forests and trees, and like there aren't houses and sidewalks around here. So, you know, even just walking around outside in the grass, and some of her grass is actually like these really soft ferns that they're only about yay tall, but they've like covered the ground, and it's a pleasure just to have your feet on those. So yeah, the whole sensory thing is amazing.
So sounds magical. I'm going to do a little plug here. So if you are only listening on audio, you go to our YouTube channel, Vibrant Family Education, find our podcast, Bringing Education Home, and you'll get to see said dogs and a little bit different background than what you normally see when you are listening or watching on the podcast. So there we go.
Like I said, we just got here, so they were anxious, so they were like jumping around and being
and Jenna was so gracious. She's like, no, get settled, you're fine. So thank you very much for being so gracious. Oh my gosh, this has been such a rich discussion. And I really hope that families have really listened and taken in some of those things that can really help their families, like you said, connect to nature, connect to those senses, and do it as a child, do it as an older person, do it in between. And like Jenna said, don't be afraid if you haven't gotten started when your kids are little. Find something at the age they're at, and jump in there and start building it where they are. And like she said, indoor, outdoor, you can find those sensory things, either space, just take the time to do it. Exactly. Any final words, Jenna? This has been so amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no other final words other than an invitation to your audience. If you're curious about what sensory-based natural play and learning might look like at your home and for your family and for your kids, I have a free, I invite your audience to jump on a free call with me, and we can talk out what that might look like for you and your family. So I just would like to extend that invitation.
Absolutely. And go ahead and say your website or the link to that so that they can find it easily. How can they find you? Social media?
So they can contact me through my website. N is for natureplay.com. And if you'd like, we can provide a link to an easy calendar that they could get on my calendar.
Actually, all of that will be down in the show notes. So just follow down into the links. They are all there, the show notes with our website and that link to the call and all of that kind of stuff. So it's always there for everybody to follow through with our wonderful guests who share so much. And we so appreciate all of our guests who come. So Jenna, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for helping our families maybe reach out and do that sensory stuff a little bit more. And, families, audience, take these nuggets, take these gold nuggets with you. Make sure that you're taking them and pulling them out and using them, especially in times when you feel dysregulated. Think back to what Jenna said. How can I ground myself? What senses can I get in touch with to bring myself into this present moment?
And, thanks for making it not just about the kids, while it is about, we're vibrant family, and about how important it is for the parents and how much they can actually get, trauma relief, and then communication and co-regulation with the kids. That language needs to get out there as well. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for going there with me, and thank you for talking about how that's where you want to do a little more exploring yourself. So it's been a wonderful conversation. You brought us it. Just thank you for being here today.
Yeah, so such a pleasure on my part too. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
You are very, very welcome. All right, audience and guests, families out there, make sure that you listen and go back and find other episodes that will help your family grow and develop and create those happy, healthy, and successful kids. Until next time, we will talk to you later, and bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina, and together we bring you experts